We're doing it. We're recording. We're screen capturing. I forgot about that part. Oh my god. Sometimes I think I might be balding already, and I am 21. But look at that hairline. Look at that hairline. Now we're in the editing process. We're in the editing room. And here I'm going to take you into my project and what I did so we can get a little bit more specific. So this is obviously a finished project. So there's a lot more in here than there was when I first started, but I can still kind of walk you through what I had and when. First and foremost, here is the folder with all of the footage that I accumulated over time. The majority of these I got in that first kind of batch download of stuff, but there are a few at the end of, okay, I realized I need a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that. This is a kind of motif. Of course, plenty of these ideas were in my outline, but sometimes stuff comes to you later. Sometimes stuff comes to you mid-edit, and that's okay. You can always go back to the drawing board, get some more content to work with, and go from there. As you can see, everything has the full name of the video with the creator name next to it. That is just so if I want to contact these people later, or if I just need to reference them, super easy to do. I can just pop this into the YouTube search bar, and I don't have to worry about anybody else's videos coming up. I don't have to worry about searching for them. They're just going to be right there. So first thing I did was plop all of these into their old folder. Then I made a string out, which is going to look a little bit like this. In this case, I separated everything via categories, which I indicated with these markers. For the sake of my video, my categories are before, so like coming into top surgery, maybe it's the drive there, just walking into the office, it might be a consultation. I have recovering at home, I have doctor's visits, and I have the final kind of reveal, which I knew was going to be a climactic point in my film. And once I had everything in there, I color coded it just for ease of recognition. What I did next, and this is a finished timeline, which is why a lot of the colors have changed, but what I did next was just plop in footage. I used that paper outline, went based off of what I was talking about, the things I was saying, and just started plopping stuff in. Once I had a pretty solid cut and felt good about what I had, I would save that assembly, copy paste it, and start editing a new one. It's really good to have those old drafts to go back to. That way, if you have a clip that you really liked or a section that worked that you take out later and then decide you want back, you don't have to reassemble the whole thing. You can just go back to one of your old sequences, copy paste, and plop back in. Super easy. For some of these sections, I'm not using footage, I'm using animation, or I'm using text. For the first few assemblies, I didn't even bother with doing the animation. I would just put text down saying what I was looking for, what I thought I needed, and then I would come back to it later. As long as time-wise, I had that text up for as long as I was going to have the animation up later, I knew that I was getting a good sense of what the final product was going to be. And that way I was making sure I was not wasting my time animating something I ultimately wasn't going to use. Now, I want to make really clear that this animation is not very complex. I'm a terrible artist. So what I did is I took stock images, I downloaded them, I traced them in Photoshop, and I threw them in After Effects with a little wiggle on top of it just to give it some motion and some life. And it just goes to show that you do not need to be an artist or have these specialties in order to use something like animation. You don't have to be an amazing cinematographer in order to get really interesting visuals. You just have to be creative with your resources. And you need to make sure whatever visual you're using, it fits in with a sort of preconceived style that is going to symbolize your story. For me, I love this simple animation because it has a very scrapbook homey feel. It also fits some of those like 2010 Draw My Life YouTube videos, which because YouTube is such a part of this video and of this story, I thought fit pretty well. I might go in and superimpose some images on top of it or include some old photographs, maybe play around with some textures, but at the moment I think it works. I don't want to get too complicated with it. Remember, no more than 2 or 3 styles, and this already has voiceover, it has music, it has some sound effects, and it has all of these different videos from all of these different YouTubers. So there's a lot going on in this video already, and I think these little minimalist pieces kind of give you breathers as you watch. And that's about it for the editing section. Hopefully this turned out how I thought it would be in the shortest. Maybe I didn't because I'm a rambler and I can kind of go on sometimes. But at this point, editing really should just be putting into action the plan you've already put together. Remember, once you feel comfortable with a cut, show it to people who are going to make you feel real uncomfortable about it. Show it to other film people or other artists that are going to critique it. Depending on your target audience, it can be good to show it to folks who are just watching it to watch it. They're not going to tell you about, oh, the rule of thirds doesn't work quite well here, the audio doesn't balance well. They're just going to say it makes sense to me or it doesn't. And at the end of the day, that's a very key part, especially when you're working with found footage and multiple forms of media. something that pieces together really well for you can get really complicated really fast if you aren't careful. So the more feedback you get, the more honest feedback you get, the better. And that is it for this little series. I hope it was helpful. I'm going to include in this video, like I have in the last two, links to royalty-free footage as well as some inspiration and ideas, just films I've seen that I think put together really interesting forms of media to tell a story and just take a different approach. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully it gave some insight and a different perspective. I know it can be an intimidating world out there now that it seems like every YouTuber has like the nicest camera and audio equipment and editing software and everything looks so pretty. But you know what? That teal and orange style, which I know I've fallen victim to, those shallow depths of fields and slow motion gimbal shots and all this fancy shit, it's gonna fade. And it's gonna fade real fast. People are becoming less and less interested in things that are technically done correct. Or visually very appealing in this sort of classic commercial cinematic sense, because now that it's so common and easily accessible, we see it everywhere. Personally, my attention is way faster drawn to a person talking to a webcam or something on like an old VHS recorder. What used to be considered low quality or lazy is now just a stylistic choice. And if you want to tell your story, there's no right way to tell it. There's always a way to get creative with it and turn it into art, no matter what you have access to. Rant over! That's enough of that. Thank you for watching. My name's Connor O'Keefe. I'm super frickin' queer. I make videos about art stuff and sometimes things like living healthy and happy and meditating and journaling and things. If you haven't already gotten that vibe, it's kind of my shtick. Thank you so much for watching this little 3-part series. If you want more like it, let me know and I'll come up with some stuff. If you want to see more of this ugly mug, consider subscribing. Maybe.